Hello, everyone. The artist we have with us today has produced a tremendous body of work over the past decades. And he has not just given birth to stunning pieces, but I think he kind of experiments with his work with the focus and enthusiasm of a scientist. And his works have been exhibited all over the world, and he is lauded for the brilliant talent that he is. So, without further ado, let me present to you Cesare Oliva. So, hello, Cesare.
Hello.
Thank you so much for making time for us. So let's start our transatlantic chat then.
Yeah.
So we know that you have lived and worked in three continents. So
Yeah.
I'd like to know, which place do you call home, and does your physical journey influence your creative pursuits, your creative journey in any way?
Well, yes. I think I am directly influenced by this kind of life I had, because when I was very child, I lived in South America, and a little bit later I lived in North America, between North America and Europe, and always I was going back to Europe. Back and forth, actually. I born in the 50s. And then we used to go with transatlantic, with ships crossing the Atlantic. And there were, airplanes very slow. They were taking 24 hours to arrive until the invention of the jet. So I saw the whole thing through, since when I was a kid until the invention of the jet lines.
Okay.
So Venezuela influenced me first, of course, also Italy, because I am a grandson of a merchant, a businessman who was importing goods from one continent to the other. So for me, back and forth was a normal thing to do. Every year, every 2 years, we used to go somewhere.
Okay. Okay. That's beautiful. Okay.
And that influenced, of course, the colors, the sensibility, also because you are surrounded by different cultures and you absorbing as a child all that knowledge, all that influence around you, especially in the first 8 years of your life.
So, coming to your style now, your surrealist paintings, they look almost Dali-esque to me. So, can you tell us, I mean, why did you choose surrealism to, convey your ideas?
Well, you don't forget that I born in the 50s, like I told you. I am a son directly of the vanguards, historical vanguards. The Surrealism, the Dadaism, the Impressionism, the Cubism, and the Expressionism. I am I directly influenced by that, because those are my predecessors. When I was surrounded by Cubism. For example, my first painting when I was a child were Cubists, and also were metaphysical, because I was directly influenced by the artist Giorgio de Chirico, which is the inventor of the metaphysic style I think in the 20s, and which I met in Rome when I was 3 years before he died. So the surrealist theory of living, is a way of living. You have to, I will ask forgiveness a little bit for my English, but because I haven't spoken English for a while in Italy. because I'm in Italy since '96, and I established my residence here since then. So I speak little English, but anyway, I would try better. The surrealism is not a style of painting, it's a way of life, because the surrealism is an analysis of reality. Is what we don't see from reality. It's the other part of reality. It's the imagination of reality, and it's the etherical part of reality. So we as human beings, we perceive a reality logically and also non-logically, consciously and non-consciously. But when we put these two things together, we get surrealistic analysis. Because to bring the non-reality to reality, you have to translate it with symbolism. And then is when surrealism or metaphysics starts in philosophy too. So the interest of a painter is analyzing the reality that surrounds you. It's not the style. It's wondering what is surrounding you and what is beyond the objects you see and you touch, other than an agglomeration of atoms or condensation of gravity. What is projected by that object? Why is there? And also is the unconscious part of human being, which we don't know, which is our unconscious. We work all day long on our conscious state, but at night we go to sleep, for example. How we do with all those hours of our life? That life exists too. It's not a non-reality. So surrealism is part of our reality and is a way of life. That's the way I explain it.
Okay. Beyond what we see and touch. That's beautiful.
Yeah, beyond the senses, the sensible world, beyond the sensible world, the metaphysical, the paraphysic, the paraphysic world.
Okay. So I was about to ask you about your different, the forms you use, the genres you work with, but you've already kind of answered that question. So I had this, I saw some of your works where you have recycled, certain things, and you have kind of innovated, kind of, taken them to a different level. I mean, wooden planks and tables. And could you please talk about that a little bit?
That period. Well, I did an enormous work of recycling the image from the Renaissance and from the figurative, recycling means utilizing these images from the past, reproposing them in a way, in a new interpretation or with new materials, without the connotations of the meanings of the time. For example, if Tintoretto would do the Paradise of Tintoretto, I take away the priest. I don't put the priests. Let's say I take away some personages. I reinterpret all that. Also because I want to oppose myself to the abstraction of the time or to the minimalism.
Okay.
You remember that I am influenced directly with the historical vanguard. A vanguard means going to the contrary to what is on the moment. For example, if the moment suggests, then a minimalist period is on, you have to show the antithesis of that. You have to go against that, to propose something against that, but without war, but with an opposition of dialectic conversation. It's like a conversation between art without words. Let's say you say a word and I say another one questioning you. I'm being dialectic. I'm opposing a new question to you. So that's why I recycle the image in a time where was a lot of fashion with the minimalist period, because the form was completely forgotten, the human body was completely forgotten, and I wanted to represent the human body again, to bring it back, you know, because the human body is still there, even though we eliminate it from the picture from a long period. And the same I did with all the periods. For example, the conceptual. When the conceptual period was in vogue, I invented a theory which I call the reflectionism. The reflectionism is to change a mental process voluntarily, without getting stuck in a hole in the same analysis all the time. Let's say a painter goes all his life with only one style, and he dies with that style. Well, he gets stuck with that style. It's only one point of view, and the reality has thousands of hundreds points of view. And we can change our mental process voluntarily and see more aspects of reality.
So this brings me to my next question, which is, you have experimented so much with forms, but when we look at your subjects, they are largely human beings and their relationship with nature. So why is that?
Well, because for me, it's much more challenging depicting a subject that we know, than we know best, which is human being. Because it's very easy to depict the horse. The horse, we are not horses. So we don't know if the horse I am painting is smiling, is sad, is suffering. No, because we are not horses, we are not cows. So it's much more difficult to represent a human being, because another human being will recognize right away if I did it the right way for him, if I got inside of him, or if it's fake, or if it's something superficial.
Wow.
Okay. You understand? That's the biggest challenge for a human being, is to paint a human being. And of course, the human being is surrounded by the landscape, which is the background. Sometimes the background is a room. You do that when you want the human being to prevail. Sometimes you don't put, not even the room, but you put a human being in the middle of the darkness. So it prevails more, like Rembrandt does, no? Or Caravaggio, no? He eliminates the room and prevails a human being. It's a way of zooming and focusing in the subject. When you put back the landscape, it's because you want to say that human being is nature too. Human being is part of the nature, is an animal. It's part of the animal kingdom.
Oh, I've read that you met Salvador Dali sometime in the 1970s. So could you tell us about your experience, and did that meeting kind of change you as a painter? Or did it do anything to you as a creator?
Well, he was talking about at the moment I remember in the St. Regis Hotel in the restaurant, he was talking about pink rhinoceros with dots
Okay.
in his mustaches. He was talking about that. We were having a conversation about that, you know, about the pink rhinoceros with dots climbing on his mustaches.
Okay. That's Dali. Okay.
Well, that's surrealism. See, that's why surrealism is a way of life. It's not only an imitation of a kind of a subject you do on a painting. It's not a style of painting, surrealism. It's an analysis of reality. It's like I analyze reality in a crazy way, let's say. Let's put it this way. So that experience was very important because I showed him some of my work and I got a real good reaction from it. And that, I was very young, and that gave me really much more, not because I didn't have the security, but that gave me more confirmation than I was, I felt very good about it, let's say.
Okay.
Put it this way.
Okay. Okay. And you talked about how humans are related to nature and the natural world. So keeping that in mind, some of your recent works show human sorrow, and you have used really, gray and dark colors, monotones to depict that. So, what do you have? What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's sometimes I feel very, I feel that human being is suffering a lot. I really feel it. And I want to get it out of my soul. To get in touch with sufferance is like an act of love. Painting is an act of love because you give yourself to humanity. When you don't do it for money, you do it because you want to do it. Why you have to paint anyway? Why we paint? We have a need to feel, to give to somebody something. So when I give something to the suffering person, I'm giving relief to myself too. I'm getting close to the sufferings of human being. Every day you see wars in TV. Every day you hear continents are dying of hunger. Every day you see people, they are depressed. They're in the wealthy countries and they are depressed, taking antidepressants. Why that? Why wealthy people take antidepressant all the time? That's also an analysis of reality and the human psyche. So I wanted to show how deep that was to somebody who was watching my painting and say, and get touched by that and sees then and get touched by in his sensibility to do something about it. You know, to awaken in somebody the sorrow is very important because you put back his humanity. And the work of the artist is to give the next dimension to human being who's working every day from 9 to 5, you know, for survival. You give another dimension. And that's the work of the artist, the social work of the artist.
So you talk of suffering and the way you depict it with really dark gray tones, but at the same time we see that your one of your newest collections, the Pandemic Circle, it uses a lot of bold and striking colors. uh, so what are you trying to tell us through those colors and through the shapes in that collection, and what is that collection all about?
Well, you see, this is the latest collection provoked by the pandemic contingency, you know? And people think that color is happiness all the time. But color, you can use it to fight in high contrast. You can use it to fight because you can calculate exactly the amount of color contrast it goes in one side and the other side to provoke a vibration, a very strong vibration that you see in those paintings is an electric vibration, and is a rebellion against the war we're fighting against this virus. It's a way of fighting the virus, which is invisible, with photons, with colors, not with happiness, but with the hardness of the color, like the fauve, Peter. You remember the fauve period? Well, that also was a fight against the industrialization of the 1800s. They also were fighting with colors. Colors very strong colors. It creates a strong vibration. It's a war, it's a battle against something bad, which is the virus. Human being now prefers to save his life than going to fight as a soldier against, a virus. Imagine that a soldier goes to war and instead of really fighting against an invasion, he wants to save his life. That's what we're doing now against the virus. We want to save our life. The war is to save our life, not to fight against. You see, that's a contradiction. We prefer to be slaves, but to be alive. You see, that's a very big contradiction. So everybody has to fight his way. I'm fighting with the colors, with very strong colors and very strong contrast. And trying to transmit the tension is in the air between the lockdowns, the pandemics, the people who cannot touch each other, cannot see their faces, against this invisible enemy that is in our body and is hidden. I'm trying to unveil him with these colors, to make him evident, to uncover himself. That's why I'm fighting with these strong colors.
Okay. So I'd like to share my screen with you and the viewers, and let's see if I can show some of your, some of the works from the pandemic circle. Oops. Okay. So I just love this one. It's beautiful. And this is a beautiful piece. This is absolutely beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much. So, you have told us about where you come from, what you have learned and experienced and accomplished all along the way. So, where do you want to go from here?
Well, I have since I was born, I knew I wanted to paint since 8 years old. I'm going to go on this path, the same path. I already have my path. And where I want to go from here, one painting after the other.
Okay.
One painting after the other, I go, like a steps in the void. Imagine a painting is a bridge in a big void where I put my foot, and then next painting is a next step where I put my foot on the void. That's the way I go.
So you want to take one painting at a time and, conquer the world.
Well, I go through my life, my insignificant existence, like everybody, doing what I like to do, what I feel to do. I think it's important we do what we want. It's very important.
And do you think this pandemic has or will change your perspective or the way you work or the way you interact with the world in any way? I mean, going forward, do you think there will be things that you will do differently now after the pandemic?
Well, I think we will go back to normal one day or the other, because there is a mechanism in human being, which is the human brain, which is over all of us. There are mechanisms of survival who has allowed us to survive for hundreds of thousands of years. And we will overcome this too, one day or the other. Probably not everybody, but a big group of humanity. And humanity will go on, even without us. It will go on. So the future is bright, always.
Okay.
I believe in the future. That's why I'm painting. I believe in human being. This is only a virus. That's all. We don't have to fear it. It will pass.
That's very optimistic of you. So thank you so much, Cesare. I mean, this chat was, your words were so profound and they were very touching, actually. I mean, as much touching as your paintings are. Actually, I love your paintings, I love your work, and now I'm a fan of your words too, of your, because it's in the thinking, right? It's your thought process that reflects in your words as well as your works. So that was beautiful experience for me. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Well, thank you.